Welcome to Techlandia, a podcast about and for the technology industry, a place to learn, connect, and engage with leaders and thinkers involved in the technology industry. You can check us out at techoregon.org, Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen. Thank you for listening and enjoy the show.
Welcome, everyone, to our latest episode of the Techlandia podcast. My name is Skip Newberry, President and CEO of TAO. We're pleased to have with us Jameson Watts from Willamette University. He's been spearheading a number of initiatives there, including the School of Computer and Data Science at Willamette. And Jameson, we're pleased to have you today.
Thanks, Skip. Happy to be here.
I thought it'd be good if we could maybe start by having you talk a little bit about your background. You didn't come up out of academia. You came out of the private sector and decided to make the transition. It'd be great if you could maybe talk a little bit about the formative years of your career and then how you transitioned to Willamette.
Yeah, sure. I'm definitely not a traditional academic. I came to the academy a bit later in my career, and I started out life in Boulder, Colorado, with a bunch of tech startups. So I have an undergraduate degree in computer science, and I was operationalizing that degree right at the time that the first kind of tech boom and subsequent bust was the talk of the town. And so I did a bunch of work for tech startups early in my career. I was actually part of the very first Techstars incubator class back in Boulder, Colorado, which was a blast. And I don't know, did a few things. Companies related to financial visualization, some marketing technology, a few other pieces related to kind of high-speed tech for delivery of alerts to mobile phones for the NBA, and a whole bunch of fun projects. I finished that part of my career with a consulting company. We had a bunch of clients in Silicon Valley and Boulder, Colorado. But I wanted something a little bit more challenging. And so in 2010, I sold my portion of the business to my partner and headed down to Tucson, Arizona to get a PhD in marketing, actually. But the type of research I was focused on was right at the intersection of marketing and data science. For those of you who are in the industry, you know marketing is very much a data-driven discipline these days. And so I was doing research in that area right as that discipline was starting to mature. And so I got a kind of a close-up look at how those technologies were being developed. Got to do some really cool research. A lot of the work I did was on natural language processing and using natural language processing to derive marketing insights and that sort of thing. After I finished that PhD, I went on the job market, interviewed all over the country, but I really love the Pacific Northwest. Willamette made me an offer, and I joined their business school.
That's great. I was wondering if you could maybe talk a little bit about kind of what you found when you first joined Willamette University and kind of the evolution, as it were, over the last 5 or 6 years of the program that you now head up. I think our listeners will be intrigued to hear just how quickly you've been able to achieve some really interesting milestones along the way.
Yeah, it only took me about 6 years to become an overnight success. The My experience at the business school was really positive. Willamette is a little unique in the sense that it's a small-ish liberal arts university, but it has a variety of professional schools attached to it. So we have a business school, we have a law school, we have an art school, and my school, which I'll talk about in a moment, is the newest of those professional schools that Willamette kind of has surrounding our liberal arts core. And so when I got to the business school, one of the great things was just the freedom that I had to innovate, and not just innovate on a research side of things, but to innovate on the curriculum. And so, about 3 years into my time there, I was reading the tea leaves and I saw a real opportunity to elevate data science education at the university. And so I started some programs. We started with a certificate program within the business school, which was wildly successful. And from there, I've been building a set of graduate programs in data science and most recently in computer science. And each of these was successful enough that the trustees started taking notice. The president took notice, and they asked me to make it into something bigger. And so, over the last 4 years or so, we've grown from a few faculty who are just kind of interested in the topic to um, roughly 15 if you include my part-time faculty, and over 600% growth in number of students. So it's been just a wild ride. We're still growing rapidly, and we're still trying to innovate.
In a previous conversation, I recall you mentioning that, like most programs, especially of a technical nature, you're often dealing with folks from a variety of different backgrounds, coming into a program as first years. And there's certain requirements that they need to kind of get out of the way early. And a lot of programs are kind of front loaded with kind of the more technical deep dive, the foundational elements, and those serve as kind of a weeding out sort of mechanism, which unfortunately leads to some attrition, right, over time. And I think a lot of programs often struggle to figure out how to correct for that, how to essentially make it so that folks feel inspired and motivated to kind of stick with the program and make it all the way through. And I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about some ways in which you've been able to address the typical kind of first, second year churn issue that a lot of programs of a more technical nature face.
Yeah, so this is probably the innovation that I'm most proud of at Willamette, and that is kind of a flipped curriculum. And so, like you mentioned, most traditional uh, engineering programs, because most of these types of degree programs are within an engineering school, um, you don't really even get to do the interesting and fun stuff until maybe your third year. And by that point, you've been required to take, 4 calculus classes and 2 linear algebra classes and a statistics class and a variety of other things. And because of that, you end up, you know, not only just weeding out a certain subset of the undergraduate population, but you're also turning off a lot of students from the discipline that might otherwise be interested in this kind of content, but they don't know it yet. Um, and if you get started on this stuff as a junior, you just don't have enough time to finish your degree. And so you need to get hooked early on. And so what we did was we created a set of introductory classes, which are no prereq intro classes. And we take you from, 0 to 60 miles an hour in the first semester. And so we've got students who've, never written a line of code in their lives, coming out of the first semester of these undergraduate classes, doing real data science. And I think part of the reason this is successful is I have extraordinary faculty teaching these courses, and one of the requirements within our school is that you actually teach these 100 level intro courses. So we've got this combination where we've got early access curriculum, and we've got our best professors teaching at the intro level, right? You go to other universities, and you've often got grad students or adjuncts or others, kind of filling in at the low level because, a lot of the professors, and understandably so, want to teach, their kind of their specialty, and often that specialty, requires a lot of learning ahead of time. And the result of this process is that we are now teaching uh, roughly 50% of every single freshman that comes into the university in one of our classes right now. And not only that, but if you look at the demographic numbers going from kind of the first class in the sequence to the second class in the sequence, we retain women, uh, uh, students of color, students from kind of lower socioeconomic backgrounds at exactly the same rate as white students and wealthier students, which is just a striking statistics. I don't think anyone else is doing that.
It's definitely, as much as you were saying, you were an overnight success in 6 years, that's still a ton of progress in a very short period of time. And the fact that you were able to, find time within that compressed period to actually implement some innovation and see some great results is pretty fantastic. I'm wondering in terms of, thinking about as students kind of matriculate from the program and move on into employment, where are you seeing some of your students land? Like what kind of positions, what kind of fields do you see certain trends emerging? I realize it's very early, but I was wondering if you could share a little bit about what you're seeing.
Well, from the undergraduate side, a lot of our students go, where you think they might go, and that's, Seattle and San Francisco, and many of them are getting paid more than me and my faculty, which is a great thing, right? We want that. um, we could talk about how to keep these folks in Portland maybe at a later time, but the big firms, the Microsofts, the Facebooks, the Googles, we get a few of those each year. Regionally, we've had folks uh, settle into technical consulting roles around town. We had a student go to Echo Northwest. We've had students um, uh, going to a few different kind of energy consulting firms. So there's also kind of a local draw as well, although they often come out of our master's programs. We've also had students go directly into kind of the startup world, and so I've got some students in fintech, some students who are machine learning engineers of one sort or another at you name it.ai, and everything else in between, I should say. Uh, but I don't want to forget one really, really important outlet for my students, and that's actually Oregon State government. So I think I've sent maybe 4 or 5 students into government roles in the past few years, which is really cool because, gosh, don't we need it?
That's fantastic. I mean, a lot of the conversations we're having with state CIOs, chief data officer, local government CIOs, they have big workforce shortages in some of these higher demand occupations, whether it's anything related to data, AI, cybersecurity. And of course, those are also areas in high demand in the private sector. And it's tough to compete at times when you're paying less than what the private sector offers. But as most folks in government can tell you, they offer a great mission driven focus. They do a lot of interesting projects at scale, and you can see really immediate impact, in your community, typically with the type of work that they're doing. So I think there's something really interesting there. And I think going forward too, there's been some conversations about how can government kind of embrace its role as kind of an early kind of finishing school, if you will, for folks who are trying to start their careers, where they can pick up some initial professional certifications, get some really great applied learning, and maybe in 3 to 5 years they kind of move on into the private sector. Or there might be some folks who say, you know what, I love the flexibility of government and the mission driven work. I'm going to stay here and grow my career here. And I think that brings us to kind of another topic I'd like to explore a bit with you, which is, as you see a lot of the capabilities you've developed as part of this program at Willamette kind of start to mature and continue to evolve, where do you see things going next? Are there opportunities to reach folks who are, starting their career, maybe already in a career, but wanting to pivot into an occupation that's got a little more kind of technical acumen, whether it's on the data side or with AI? What does that future look like? Is from your vantage point?
Uh, so many things, and we've been focused in our conversation a little bit on my undergraduate programs, but the graduate programs are really laser focused on working professionals and upskilling. And so many of the students that come into our grad programs, they may have taken a programming course as an undergrad or a few statistics course at some point, but they're really, they're seeing at work, right, that this is a needed thing. And when you look around at most graduate programs, to get a master's in computer science, for instance, you typically have to have an undergraduate in computer science, and there's a specific entrance exam and a variety of other things. So there was a real gap there in the marketplace, and so we've been designing our programs in as kind of a complement to those existing master's programs, and focused on folks who may be working or looking for a career change, who want to get in, learn how to do this stuff, and be dangerous at work right away. Um, and of course, the other advantage is that our programs are only 12 months long. Now, it's an intense 12 months, but you can get it done, though some of our students do take it part time. The other areas that we're looking to innovate, one, I think we're going to do something in cybersecurity. Stay tuned. I'm still working on that. The other areas are kind of dialing back some of this professional education into bite-sized chunks that we can deliver, either directly through the university or in partnership with organizations like TAO, as a way of, you know, giving folks, a chunk of knowledge that they can apply on the job immediately. And, for some students, that's going to be enough. But for others, they're going to get hooked and they're going to want to come back for more. So we're starting to think about, what these look like, what the format is, what the market really wants in terms of this kind of education. And as you know, Skip, we've got our very first version of this coming up in September with a workshop on AI for decision makers, co-hosted with you all.
We're definitely looking forward to it. Just in conversations we've had with a lot of our member companies over the last couple of years, there's definitely a hunger for what is often referred to as kind of just in time or kind of very relevant, timely coursework that folks can, to your point, access in bite-sized chunks. And for existing professionals, that's hugely valuable. And especially over the years, we've seen for small and medium-sized businesses in particular, which is the vast majority of Oregon's market. They don't necessarily have armies of in-house professional development folks churning out in-house university coursework, right, on a regular basis. And so I think that's an area where TAO, in partnership with you all at Willamette, we can kind of bring our respective areas of subject matter expertise to bear to help a lot of these companies and their employees kind of level up their teams. So we're pretty excited about it.
As are we. I think it's going to be a great event.
Awesome. So as we also kind of like think about, Willamette and the fact that it's a liberal arts institution, you mentioned some of the other areas where you have other sort of schools under the college. One thing that's been interesting is looking at some surveys we did last fall of our member companies in terms of where they see future needs related to different skills. And there's a class of skills that could be characterized as technical, things around data, AI, cybersecurity. And then there's a category called human skills, which that came unprompted by several of our members. And I'm like, great, we're now at a point where we're defining ourselves in relation to the robots. So putting that aside for a second in terms of the existential questions raised by that, as part of human skills, folks were often referring to critical thinking, communication skills, team building and management of people, leadership, and then also this critical one, which was being able to recognize signal from a lot of noise and being able to synthesize a lot of different disciplines to kind of see where things were headed and be the architect of different solutions. And to me, that speaks to the importance of liberal arts. And I'm wondering, where do you see opportunities with Willamette going forward, where you've got this really interesting kind of deep technical work and capability that you're overseeing, plus you have the benefit of all these other kind of liberal arts disciplines that can be brought to bear. Do you see opportunities for these other faculty to get involved in doing some more cross-disciplinary stuff with the data science program that you're running?
Absolutely, and in fact, we're already doing it. So we've got a few things that are currently on the books that have worked really, really well. So one is that we have a joint degree with the management school. So you can get both a master's in data science and a master's in business administration in roughly 2.5 years. The students who've gone that route have gone on to be the types of individuals that you describe in that survey. So one that comes to mind, I don't think she'll mind me giving her a shout out, but Sarah Abadi is an absolute phenom. And she's a VP in kind of the financial technology realm. And she's one of these folks, right, who's a synthesizer. She's got the tech skills, she's got the communication skills, she's got the kind of people management skills, the leadership. Makes her really dangerous, right, out there in the marketplace. And she's been absolutely kicking butt. So that's one area that we've really pushed on. Another area that we're currently developing is some joint programming with the law school. So it's not often that you hear lawyers clamoring for more math. Skip, I think you might be a lawyer. I'm not sure about that, but
Recovering.
recovering. So I'm married to one. Some of my best friends are lawyers, so I understand some of the personalities there. But I think there's a real opportunity to kind of use the law school, the legal faculty, to give us some depth in areas like intellectual property, kind of ethics, and a few other areas that are vitally important. Data governance is a big thing right now, and no one's really giving you a holistic perspective on that. It's either like here's the law or here's how you implement, Google's governance suite or whatever it might be, right? But these things interact, and you have to be able to think across that boundary to be really effective at an organization. So that's one other area. The third piece that we're working on is a kind of joint capstone process. So many of our graduate students engage in some sort of capstone project um, where they take on uh, some real world problem and produce, for instance, a kind of data science project output. Um, we are working with the business school and our uh, art and design school, PNCA, on kind of a signature capstone experience. So select students will have an opportunity to take on kind of a consulting style project that has, a management aspect, a technical aspect, and a design aspect, possibly a legal aspect as well, and work together on a team to produce the final product. And so that's the sort of thing that you really can only put together at a place like Willamette, where we have, like you mentioned, this kind of liberal arts focus, but also we're not so big that the bureaucracy gets in the way, right? We're not so siloed into a massive engineering school and a massive business school and other things. We all know each other, right? And so we can have these conversations and do this curricular innovation.
That's exciting in terms of the vision for the future that you all are pursuing there. And we're definitely lucky to have a school like Willamette here in Oregon that can draw upon those different disciplines. And frankly, as you pointed out earlier, the leadership that recognizes that there needs to be some new thinking in terms of higher ed and how things are approached. A lot's changed, and higher ed kind of needs to evolve with it. And I think as we wrap up here, are there any sort of, kind of final remarks that you'd like to leave our audience with?
I don't have anything kind of profound, Skip, but I will say uh, that I want to encourage your audience to dip their toe in the water, right? For a lot of folks, um, they look at something like data science or computer science or statistics, and it looks scary. Um, but the truth is, um, it it doesn't have to be. With the right instructors, with the right environment, with the right kind of approach, you can enter this field. You can gain an understanding, and I think you can have a lot of fun with this stuff. Um, it just feels powerful once you have a baseline understanding of how to use these tools. And that feels good. It makes you feel like you can act on the world and really make a difference.
Well said. Well, thank you again for taking some time out of your busy schedule to join us. And we're excited about the future partnership between Tau and Willamette University and look forward to more great things. Thank you all for joining us today.
Thank you, Skip. My pleasure.